very, very telling of you guys being able to join at 6 p.m. in the evening when you could be watching Netflix and doing various other things. So, we really appreciate you guys joining as well. And of course, to our employer partners, IQEQ, for coming here, taking the time out after work. As you can see, they're all in the office still. So, being able to join at this time is, a commitment from themselves, to kind of like really talk to you about the firm and so on and so forth. So, a bit of housekeeping rules, guys. If we can have our cameras turned on, it's always nice to see the faces. That's always great. Continue to drop questions in the chat as we kind of progress through the session today. It's really an informal session to just kind of get to know about IQEQ, get to know about a bit of about some of the roles that are on offer this summer. And yeah, just ask any questions to kind of like really give you informed insight before you put the applications through as well. And one final thing, guys, if you find the session valuable and stuff, share it on LinkedIn, right? It's important, LinkedIn is a very big platform in order to kind of network, share your insights and, kind of like show that you are part of the session as well, right? It's really kind of good to kind of just get the word out there in that respect. And with that being said, I'll hand it over to Rachel to kind of like kickstart the session.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks a lot, Stephen. Thanks everyone for joining. I really reiterate what Stephen said there about, your commitment to this process. I know it takes a lot of time. So we're here to talk about IQEQ. And the first thing I just wanted to explain was what on earth IQEQ kind of means as a name. I think, you can glance at it and not really think about what it is. But we're really kind of proud of our name because we really think that it explains what we're about as a company. So IQ, obviously the intelligence side, we know our clients, we know our stuff, we know our, the technical things about what we do, but we marry that with the EQ, so the emotional intelligence, the know you, as we like to describe it, and we like to think that we provide a very kind of IQ and EQ heavy service to our clients. So, it's not just a bunch of letters kind of together, it actually kind of means something, and we really try to get that across to our clients. So very, very briefly, we are about just over 5,000 people globally. We're in 25 or 26 locations. Our headquarters is in Luxembourg, but I believe that the London office is the biggest office that we've got. I think there are about 450 people based here in London. I run what we call RegCom, Regulatory and Compliance Solutions. I'll explain a little bit more about what that is in a second, but we are really keen to have some junior talent joining us in the summer as interns, and then we've got some full-time kind of roles that hopefully some of those people will roll into in the autumn. So what does RegCom actually mean? Regulatory and Compliance Solutions. We've got two businesses. The first one is that we are a regulatory host. So we help newly established incubating businesses that want to offer regulated services. We help them to get off the ground before they go and get their own FCA authorization. So some of you may know that that's a very complicated process. It takes normally about 12 months, and lots of firms want to get established more quickly than that. So they come underneath our regulatory umbrella, and we help them with everything to do with regulation and compliance while they kind of get running. So we work with lots of really kind of innovative businesses. Lots of them are in kind of new emerging sectors. So, for example, kind of climate tech, biotech, lots of Web3, those type of things. So lots of different types of businesses we work with. So it's an opportunity really to get a really broad kind of understanding of the spectrum of financial services businesses. So that's the first bit of the business. As I said, we look after more than 100, as we call them, appointed representatives. And then we've got a compliance consulting business. So as it kind of says on the tin, we've got a number of consultants who are experts in regulation and compliance who help firms who are already regulated make sure they comply with all the FCA's rules. So again, we've got about 200 clients on that side of things, and our consultants typically will have a sort of portfolio of clients that they are providing advice to. So they're the two sides. We want the interns to get experience of both sides of that. So that's what we'll be offering over the summer. So we've got Pranav and Io with us today, who joined us in the summer of last year. So they've been here about kind of 8, 9 months now. And I think it'd be a good chance for them to explain what they've been up to in the last 8 months and what they like about being here at IQEQ. And then when they've done that, sorry, I'll just do a couple more intros, but we've got Shah here from our recruiting team who can perhaps talk a little bit about some of our processes. And actually, the one thing that I really wanted to kind of stress, I know what a nightmare these kind of internship recruitment processes can be. And I want to stress, we do not use bots to do interviews. We don't do any of that horrific kind of faceless stuff that I've seen a lot of other large companies doing. It's a very kind of personal process. You'll have interviews with kind of actual people, which we hope will be useful to you, whether you're actually successful kind of or not. But Shah can talk a little bit more about that. Right, I'll hand over to Pranav and AO.
Yeah, I don't mind going first. Hey
Go for
everyone,
it.
I'm Pranav, and I'm currently within the regulatory hosting division as an analyst. I essentially help really early stage funds, people in their early careers of their fund launch to fundraise efficiently and compliant in a compliant way. Um, I think IKEQ is the best place to start your work because if you're really interested in compliance, fund administration, it really gives you a breadth of exposure across various different strategies. And early on, it allows you to take huge amount of responsibility. So that's one of the things I love at IKEQ. And yeah, I'd pass it on to Io.
Thank you. So as everyone said, I'm Io. I'm also working in the advisory team alongside Pranav. I think Pranav has done one side of advisory, but one of my favorite things about the role is working with our different clients. As Pranav said, like we're supporting loads of funds, loads of ARs very early on in their careers, and I think it's interesting just seeing all of their investment strategies at such an early stage and having those in comparison to some of our more established ARs and just seeing the different businesses out there. Yeah.
Nice. Guys, I'm just gonna kind of like interject there because I'm certain when you guys went through this process, you guys didn't know what ARs was, right? So for the purpose of the people in the room, it will be interesting to kind of delve into a bit more detail in terms of I guess like going into what an AR is, like what your role is in that capacity, and I guess like kind of providing some context into like what surprised you about the role, just in terms of what you thought it was versus what you're exposed to. Because I know that I can speak for the fact that when I was in IQEQ, I couldn't believe some of the stuff that I was even like being allowed to do in that respect. So it'd be great if you could kind of provide color there. Maybe you want to start first.
Sure. So I think the fact that I said AR and didn't clarify shows that I've been in a compliance industry for ages. A huge part of this role is a lot of acronyms that go flying about. So do stop me if any of us are using all of these. So ARs are appointed representatives, and in essence, so a lot of your big firms that you know may know of, so maybe your JP Morgans, your Goldman Sachses, are all fully regulated entities. So they have a full FCA license that allows them to operate in the market. The people that we serve, so our ARs, our appointed representatives, do not have these permissions. So they come to us, a regulatory hosting business, and we provide them these permissions through them being an appointed representative. So they're allowed to carry out a fixed number of permissions. And as IQEQ, we take on the risk of the ARs in their business activity and to support them in any of their endeavors.
Nice, nice. No, thank you for that
Um,
comprehensive background.
I'll,
And what would you like to
yeah,
add?
I'll just take the surprise element of the question. So, when Io and Rachel are talking about clients and ARs, I just wanted to give you a color of the, the caliber of clients. So, all of these individuals and clients are people that have worked for these huge firms like KKR, CVC Credit, and now they come to us. They come to us to ask for help, for them to set up their own fund. And on a day-to-day basis, we speak to these people, these really high caliber, smart people, to understand their investment strategy and how we can help them effectively fundraise and launch their funds. So a surprising element for me was how early on I got exposure to really smart individuals and really picked up client work during probationary period itself. So yeah.
Nice. And I think that kind of leads on to the next question that I saw in the chat in terms of someone asking what is unique about the training that IQEQ offers. I'm really trying to hold myself back from answering these questions myself because of IQEQ.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I think it's a really important point to say we obviously don't expect people to be regulatory experts from day one. We just want you to have an interest in the subject. That's all. We do have a massively structured kind of training program. It's something that we pride ourselves on. We don't expect you to do it all in week one either. It will be very much kind of spread out over time. But what we want you to come with really is kind of intellectual curiosity. So that's a really important thing. We want you to have good listening skills. We want you to have good written skills, actually. So that's an important thing. A lot of our advice to our ARs we send out on email. So we want people to be able to kind of write clearly and concisely and turn something that's quite complicated into something that's quite straightforward for the ARs to understand. And the same on the consulting side as well. I know we're talking a lot here about ARs, but on the consulting side, again, it's about taking kind of regulatory stuff, which is quite complicated, and distilling it down into something simple. And we want you to be confident about, first of all, what you know and also what you don't know. So it's perfectly fine to say to a client, do you know what? I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to kind of get back to you. And we've got, 50 odd experts kind of sitting around here that you can refer questions to, and there'll definitely be somebody who can answer it.
Yeah, no,
Um,
definitely. And I think from my perspective, if I could answer that question about what's unique about the training with IQEQ, not only do you get that, I guess, like comprehensive standardized training, but I think the unique part is that you get thrown into the deep end quite early in terms of your exposure to clients. Obviously, you do have support from your line manager in terms of making sure that you feel confident before you're thrown into the deep end, but the exposure you get is second to none. And I feel like more than anything, that's the best way to learn, right? When you kind of get thrown into the heart of it. And honestly, to date, I couldn't understand why like I had that much exposure, to be honest, but I think it's great because it kind of makes you like understand in a lot more detail rather than having to conceptualize a lot of these things in theory, right? So I think that's like a really key part. A question that came here that I thought was very, very interesting and was, do you support applications for FCA regulations, and what happens if applications are denied at first? So a bit of a technical question. I'm not sure if you want to take that one, Rachel.
Yeah, no, well, we absolutely do, and what we like to do is a seamless service from being an appointed rep through to being the FCA, through to getting the FCA application. So our consulting team would run that process for a client. I don't think we've had any rejected to date. I mean, the FCA has put quite a lot of stuff out there saying that many of the applications they get are poor quality and they have to reject them. Obviously our objective is to make sure those applications are really, really high quality when they go in, so the FCA can't kind of reject them on a technicality or because they're not detailed enough or whatever. Yeah, I think that covers it.
Got you.
Does
Perfect.
that answer the question? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we're kind of there, to be honest. And obviously, like the firm being well versed in the fact that you guys have sent so many of these applications that the FCA kind of know you guys on a first name basis, really. So that
Yeah.
kind of helps as well, I guess. And I think
Well, and the guy that leads our sort of authorizations team was at the FCA himself in the authorizations department for 15 years, so has seen it from the other side and kind of gets it all.
yeah, no,
Um, The other thing that I just want to point out about our compliance consulting offering is that we've got a very strong business in the US and also in Asia on consulting as well. So we are trying to offer a global service to our clients, which a lot of our clients operate on a global basis. As you know, the financial services industry is very global in its nature. So we're working hard to try and kind of develop and promote this kind of global service. So the client can come to us whether they want advice about the US, Hong Kong, Singapore, UK, Luxembourg, whatever. And we think that's quite a good differentiator for IQEQ because not many of the compliance consultants out there have got that full global reach.
no, most definitely. And I guess, Rachel, would you be able to kind of provide color in that respect in terms of like your acquisitions at the moment? Because I know that you guys obviously like have been acquiring a lot of companies and compliance firms at the moment. So it'll be interesting to kind of provide a bit of color into that and the thought process behind that, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got about 350 compliance staff now across the globe, and that has been driven by acquisition. So IQEQ is quite an acquisitive company. I should go back to this actually. IQEQ at its core is kind of an investor services company. So it does everything that investors could ever want. Um, so a lot of that is fund administration. That's a very key part of what we do. Compliance and regulation is a key part of what we do. We offer a lot of corporate services. We offer the depository. So we're trying to really be a kind of one-stop shop for everything that investors want. So going back to IQEQ strategy, it's to acquire businesses and sort of bolt them on that really round out our overall service to investors. And again, we find that is very compelling. You know, people are trying to reduce the number of service providers that they use because it's complex and can be more costly to have loads of service providers. So they're really trying to kind of streamline it. And obviously that's better for us to have clients that are taking many services from us, because it makes them stickier as a client.
No, that makes sense. I'm gonna pick on IO for a second. A question that came in was what are some of the regulatory challenges that you're supporting clients with at the moment? I'm sure you guys can kind of provide color to that effect in terms of like some of the challenges that your clients are facing on a day-to-day basis. So I'm not sure if you want to take that one, and then Pranav, you can go after.
Yeah, sure. I'll chime in. I know, so ESG has been a massive thing. So there's been loads of ESG papers coming in, and regulations. And one way this has sort of impacted the way that we're working with our ARs is just making sure that where our ARs are saying that they have an ESG focus, their products have an ESG focus. So, for example, when I'm saying products, I mean their funds, where they're saying their funds are supposed to be green and changing the world and making the world a better place. We are now having to be a lot more rigorous with our process to ensure that they are doing this, and they're meeting certain criteria. So across all of their financial promotions, so financial promotions and client comms being their marketing material. So anything they use to advertise their funds, we're going through and making sure, is this up to scratch? Are you doing what you're saying you're doing? And that's something that has become, I think, particularly since the start of this new year, has been something that's been very pressing. So across marketing materials, websites, and all sorts. But yeah, I think, Pranav, do you have anything to add?
I mean, guys, do you want to give a specific example of when you look at a financial promotion, like actually what are you doing?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, a financial promotion is a deck a fund makes to present to its investors or its prospective investors, so like incoming and new investors, to gain money from them. And we look at the deck to ensure it's it's fair, clear, and not it's fair, clear, and not misleading. So we look to verify every aspect of the deck. So any research and analysis they include in the deck, we ask for further evidence and we verify them according to the deck. Then we give them language in terms of disclaimers and etc. But on a high perspective, it's essentially reviewing a deck that they intend to market.
Nice, nice. And I think the whole reason, obviously, of course, is because, financial services being heavily regulated, the FCA want to make sure that no investors are being misled or kind of like being missold to you, right? So I guess like if a fund kind of says we achieve a significant amount of results over anybody else in the market, then obviously in that respect, an investor would be like, here, take all my money. Like, I want to invest in it right now. And that could be misleading, because imagine if that doesn't happen, then that does not really kind of it's not in the investor's best interest effectively. I think someone was brave enough to actually want to ask a question directly. I think Grace had her hands up, so maybe you can turn off your mic and ask a question if you want.
Hi everyone. It was kind of a bit of an addendum or follow on to the previous question. So it was kind of from the landscape of risk and like viewing the activities that you do. There's two elements to it. So how do you kind of separate yourself from the risk that could be heightened by clients not necessarily complying to things such as liquidity risk, for example, when we're talking about AFMID or MIFID, or for example, if we talk on an ESG perspective and SFDR and the language and the way that's being built out, how do you disseminate the information to those firms that you represent in a way that's efficient enough for them to sort of understand it, seeing as we are consulting for them? So how far does the blame fall, like where does the blame fall? Is it apportioned to us, or is it apportioned to the client themselves? And where do the rig fences lie? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean the risk is very much with us. We are the regulated firm. We are the ones that could get fined by the FCA if we do things wrong. So obviously it is incumbent on us to have a very good understanding of what all of our appointed representatives are doing. So we have monitoring teams. So Pranav and I are from the advisory team, which more does kind of, you know, pre-trade kind of stuff, but we've got a monitoring team that are there to review everything that the ARs are doing and make sure that they're doing it correctly. And if they're not, obviously we can point them kind of down the right direction, but they are, you know, the monitoring is really intrusive. So we kind of collect, it's very evidence based. So, you know, it's a bit like an audit, you know, you're collecting evidence to make sure that the AR is doing things in the correct manner. So we will be making sure that they are distributing the financial promotion that has been properly approved, and not just any old financial promotion that they've decided to kind of pump out there. We are checking that they are only distributing it to the right type of people. So, for example, our ARs aren't allowed to distribute to retail people. So, you know, like all of us, we have only got a license to do that for institutional investors. So if we find out that anyone's been distributing to retail investors, that's kind of a big problem for us. And we do end up actually offboarding certain ARs if they don't comply with our policies and procedures. You know, we have to kick them out.
Nice.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, essentially. Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's on us. It's the question. So
yeah.
Perfect. Somebody else asked, Rachel, I'm not sure if you can provide color into this, like what sort of projects are the compliance consulting team getting involved in, and what can the interns be expected to sink their
I
teeth
mean,
in?
all sorts and anything. I mean, you know, we wouldn't expect interns to be giving kind of high level, you know, very kind of complicated advice to clients, obviously. But you know, there'll be research tasks. There's always, the FCA is always putting out new stuff, so we need to analyze that and understand what that means. We do an awful lot of kind of marketing and promotion. So we would be writing articles about what XYZ new regulation kind of means for clients. Uh, we do monitoring for clients as well, so that's probably something that interns could expect to get involved in. We do regulatory reporting, so anybody that's got more of a kind of, you know, mathematical kind of interest might get involved in that kind of reg reporting side of things. It really is incredibly varied, and one day is going to be different to the next. Anything compliance.
Perfect. No, thank you for that. A question for the previous intern cohort. What would you say were some of the main challenges and key challenges, I guess, that you still kind of navigate, like being in a client-oriented environment at the moment? You guys can be honest. It doesn't matter if Rachel's here.
Yeah.
Are you gonna go first?
Okay. Yeah, sure. I think it comes with its pros and cons. You're working with people, and as you can imagine, as complex as you are, our clients are also as complex. So it's a matter of communicating their needs, and figuring out a way to ensure that they can put forward the best image of themselves, whilst being compliant. But I think that is a way of simplifying it, but you're basically navigating human relationships. And sometimes I think wrong time of the day, right tone, wrong tone. You have to be very picky about how you're communicating. I think in our roles in particular, working with clients, advisory, consulting, you just have to be very particular about your mode of communication.
Perfect.
Yes. I just wanted to add on, it's completely different to just a normal client relationship, because as Rachel mentioned, the risk sits on us. So it's essentially, we are not advising them or suggesting them to do something. We have certain processes in place and they need to follow them. So it's a fine line between managing the client's expectations while ensuring we are doing our processes. So that was something that was surprising to me, and yeah, I'm working on that.
Nice, perfect. Someone said, what is the most rewarding aspects of the internship program for the interns, and how does IQEQ support you in achieving this? Again, I'm sorry to be picking on you guys, but that's the reason you're here. You want to go first?
Okay,
I mean,
so
I was going to ask Shah actually whether he would just comment on sort of how the intern sort of, how we see it panning out. Sorry to interrupt there, AO. Is that
No,
okay, Shah? Can
absolutely.
you maybe touch on
Yeah, no,
that for a minute?
absolutely. Yes, I can do. Yes. So, hi everyone. I stayed quiet for 35 minutes. It's time to talk, kind of thing, So, no, absolutely. I'm one of the senior recruiters at IQEQ. I work alongside Rachel and the team to kind of hire the best talent into the organization as well. And, we're massive support to be involved in this internship program for this year as well. The process is going to be very, very straightforward in terms of you guys are registered with Beyond Education. You do your applications through that process. So Stephen will run you through that induction program with yourselves in terms of how to apply to the role. In terms of the interview process, just reiterating what Rachel kind of said, it is not going to be a bot process. It's not going to be AI. It is definitely human based. So what we're going to do is probably a two-stage interview. You will meet the hiring managers, your line managers throughout the interview process. The plan is we are going to interview people or everyone that is applying to the role or whoever is selected for the role. What we're going to do is that we're going to have the interview days. So we're going to run those sometime in March, hopefully. The date is yet to be agreed, and the interviews are going to be done via Teams, and hopefully we're going to make the selection process for the second round. Once we've made the second round interviews, then we're going to choose 5 people. So we have 5 internship programs for this year, and we're going to make the selections based on that.
Nice. And it's just to kind of like reiterate as well, guys, it's really a skills-based process in terms of like,
Yeah.
the recruitment. So it's really about simulating like what you would be doing on a day-to-day in a job, and kind of like putting that in front of you, and really and truly, as Rachel kind of mentioned, it's really about intellectual curiosity, right? So kind of like figuring out like,
Absolutely.
how would I like kind of look like in practice when doing this? That's what it really is about. And I'm sure Ayo and Pranav can kind of attest to that process as well, in terms of like it really puts you in mode of like, okay, cool, if I was actually doing this role, what would it look like, right? Rather than doing a bunch of random tests and a bunch of things through AI and so on and so forth. And I think I
Yeah.
saw a question here in terms of like, is there an assessment center? So no, there's no assessment center. There's going to be a screening stage by Beyond Education's internal recruitment team. Once you go through that screening stage, IQQ kind of review the profiles that we put forward and select people that they want to progress through the actual interview stage process. And it would be a 2-stage interview process with that case study, and then effectively kind of like lead to decision. So it's quite seamless in that respect, to be honest. A
Yeah.
question here. Sorry, Rachel, I'm
I
not
was just going to say, just before you get on to the next question, then just in terms of when people are here, this will only be our 3rd year of running an internship program. So, I've got to be honest, we are still learning how to create the best program for everybody and the best experience. But, all I can promise you is that we really want that to be a fantastic experience for everybody. So, we're going to work together to make sure it works well for kind of both of us, and input from the interns on that will be really useful. But we're going to appoint one of our managers to sort of look after everybody in the round, and to make sure that you're getting access to the right experiences, that you've got the support that you need during that process, and you've got the learning opportunities, and that actually you're stretching yourself. And at the end of I'm not entirely sure how many weeks the program is, but at the end of
12.
that 12 weeks, okay, at the end of that 12-week period, that you can demonstrate that you've learned something, and it should set you up well for progressing in the financial services industry.
Perfect.
And
I
to
think
add on that, sorry, Stephen,
oh,
can
go
I
on.
jump in while we're still on that question?
All good.
And not just to add, and to add on that, actually, the 12 weeks is not just going to be a 9 to 5 job. We want to make it fun for you as well. You're going to be integrated into the team. you're working alongside senior people as well. Rachel actually sits with everyone. So, we don't have a hierarchy system in that sense that, the MDs go and sit in an office room. Absolutely not. We all sit on the floors. There will be certain events that we're going to run throughout the program as well. So there'll be breakfast with either the CEO of IQEQ, or you may do a lunch with Rachel even. Some, other things like volunteering days we're looking at. So we hope to make it a very, very kind of interesting internship, not just all about this is what I'm going to do 3 months and I'm just going to be working. Not at all. We're going to take some feedback and from yourselves and see what we can plan for the 12 weeks.
Most definitely. And I think what I kind of like about IQEQ as well is just in terms of the no hierarchy, right? The fact that you can kind of see the CEO of the UK office like right there, and then he just sits like at the back. And then like, the CEO of the firm globally as well would come into the London office from time to time. And, you can kind of get the opportunity to kind of see them face to face and really expand your network. I think Jade, you had your hand up. So yeah, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Hi, sorry, my camera's not working, but
Okay.
basically I wanted to ask, in terms of like challenges that you would face, have you ever had like an incident where like a client, you've told the client what to do and they didn't take into account what they would need to follow, or like the regulations that they would need to follow? How did you handle that, or how was it resolved? I don't know if that's relevant to you.
Yeah, has there
Yeah.
been any naughty clients that you guys have had to deal with? I or Pranav, not sure if you guys have had experience in that.
But
Do you want to go ahead? I
Yeah,
know you have
sure, why not?
a list.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, it happens not all the time, but it happens more than you might think, and it's all about understanding where what exemptions are there and what are the limits, and like working with the client to find a solution to ensure that our processes are also being kept while they are being helped. But yeah.
Nice. Ayo, what about you?
I was just going to speak a bit more generally and say that we literally have a long list, unfortunately, of ARs who are sometimes put on a naughty list. In fact, we were on a meeting literally just before this, discussing them for the week. So we have a weekly meeting just to keep up with the status of all of the ARs and just see what have they done that has put them on this list, and what sort of remediation and escalation we're putting them through. So sometimes we put them through breaches, and this process might just be remedying the process, but also recording it for our internal processes and understanding, okay, what went wrong? Was it an AR failure? Was it an internal system? As Pranav said, if it is an internal thing, we come through and just reinforce, okay, was our policy incorrect? Whether was it not clearly communicated? What sort of improvements can we make from that side? If it was an AR failure, how can we ensure that they are aware? So sometimes we enroll them in new training and give them a bunch of presentations to go through, just to make sure that it's concrete and it's very clear the lines that they've crossed and that they do have something solid to hold on to.
Nice. No, thank you for that comprehensive overview.
Thank you.
Grace, you had another question. Feel free to come off mute.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yep, all good,
Yeah.
all good.
Okay, brilliant. So my question was more to do with looking ahead to the full-time role and what that would look like. So I think we spoke about a flatter hierarchy and the idea of everyone within the team communicating and working together in a shared space. But in terms of the daily responsibilities, I know in a consulting capacity, it can be the expectation that from day zero or day one, you are sort of a subject matter expert. So I would say in the hierarchy of the team, with the roles of not necessarily an MD, but maybe like a VP or associate or someone a bit more senior to an analyst, be largely different in the type of activities, the scale of activities, or like how does it measure up according to your progression within that role, if that makes sense?
I mean, I think across consulting and hosting, we tend to have, 2 or 3 people per kind of account. So you know, you've got a bit more senior coverage if the question from the client is more complex than a sort of straightforward one. So we do try and give people a lot of opportunity to stand on their own 2 feet, but we don't leave you kind of floundering, you know, if you don't know the answer. So uh, you know, the jobs at different levels are not vastly different. It's not, you know, when you're an analyst, you're doing this, and when you're an associate, you're doing something completely different. It's just that you get more and more responsibility, and you would expect to have knowledge across a greater spectrum of subjects, the kind of, you know, higher up the hierarchy you go. So it's hard for us to predict right now exactly which roles we'll have open come kind of, you know, end of the summer, September. But I would expect we would have roles probably in consulting, probably in monitoring, potentially in advisory where Pranav and AO are. We've also got a financial crime team, for example, so anyone who's got an interest in prevention of financial crime, there are potentially kind of things there. We've also got a principal compliance team, which is a bit like a sort of, again, it's like an internal audit. They review all of everything that we're doing to make sure that we are complying with the rules the whole time. We've got a fund and operations team, so we've got lots of different teams. So I can't say exactly which roles are going to be open, but there will definitely be a few.
Nice. Pratip, you want to turn on your camera and turn off your mute to ask your question? Hello?
Where's he gone?
Oh no, he's disappeared. I will come back to you, Pratip. Jamal, do you want to go next?
Hi, Steve. My question essentially is, in the current markets, there's a lot of consolidation due to clients wanting more bespoke products at cheaper prices. Now, for IQEQ, would being able to kind of generally systemize the ability to provide these customized products at low cost be where the opportunity and challenge lies for, especially like the RegCom division? That's basically my question.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I think, you know, across IQEQ as a whole, we are looking, we a lot of our quite standard services like fund accounting, for example, are outsourced to what we call GCDs, Global Client Delivery Centers, which we've got in India, Manila, in the Philippines and Mauritius. And that's the way that we are able to sort of protect margin by operating out of those lower cost jurisdictions. But because the work that we all do in RegCom is so specialized, you know, you've got to know about the FCA, it's that we can't outsource that anywhere. It's got to be performed in the UK. We need people who are UK kind of regulatory experts. So you know, IQEQ has accepted that there is going to be a lower margin in this business than in perhaps some of the more commoditized businesses that we've got. But you know, as a package, it all works together. And if we do a good job with our clients, you know, the chances are we can sell them fund administration work or other types of administration work kind of down the line. But you know, going to the first part of your question, we are obviously there are price pressures across the sector, but we want to be a premium provider. You know, we don't want to be involved in a kind of race to the bottom in terms of pricing, and we think that the service that we deliver kind of justifies a premium price. So that's where we want to be.
Okay, thank you, Rachel.
And
Perfect.
if I'm not wrong,
Oh, go on.
sorry, I was just saying, if I'm not wrong, we are the largest regulatory host in the UK.
We are on the
Yeah.
institutional side. Yeah, there are bigger ones in retail, but yeah, we're the largest regulatory host.
Okay, cool. That's
Thank you for
very
reminding
interesting.
me.
Angie, I can see you had a question as well.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, all good, all
Yeah.
good.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to get some clarity on something. In terms of first of all, with consulting, do you offer different types of consulting? So like, you know how different companies have management consulting, strategy consulting, and will interns be able to like specialize in those types of consulting, or would we just
No,
kind
it's all compliance consulting. So
Okay.
that's what we offer. We are compliance and regulatory experts. So that's the consulting
Okay.
that we offer.
I have one more question. I don't know if it's been answered before, but I'm in second year, so I was wondering, do you have opportunities for second year students in a 3-year degree for summer?
So, so this opportunity is predominantly for third year students, recent grads, and working professionals, and that's just because in the possibility of there being a full-time offer after, ideally, IQEQ would want interns to roll into that full-time offer. So if you look at Pranav and Ayo, they were in their final year, so they were able to take on a full-time role after. So that's kind of the whole idea, really. But I'm sure if you stick around on our platform, we have can't say this, but a few internships that are coming out for first year and second year students, about 30 plus, that we're going to release next week. So, there's opportunities for everyone, effectively. So yeah, I hope that kind of helps.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. And then what I would say as well to your question in terms of the different kind of consultants, obviously IQEQ predominantly focus on compliance consulting, but I think where the variety lies is the fact of the clients that they serve and it being in the investment space. So with that being said, even though you're doing compliance consulting, as Pranav and Ayo mentioned, you're exposed to all these different firms' investment strategies. And I think a lot of these, I guess, professionals that leave these big firms to start their own firms, they're quite ambitious in terms of what they want to do. So you're exposed to all these new things that just like, kind of gets you thinking, right? And I think, keep me honest here, Rachel, a lot of clients that you've worked with has end up being in the news or kind of, their fundraisers being
Yeah,
announced
yeah,
like that. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
you're working with really
Uh,
high profile clients in that respect.
yeah. I also wanted to just stretch that point a bit. And okay, my bad. I forgot what I wanted to say. Sorry.
Pranav, do you want to give us an example of one of your clients? I mean, I think you can name them. That's kind of fine, and just say sort of who they are and what they do.
Oh, yeah, sure. One of my clients are a publicly listed real estate investment trust. And yeah, they focus on investing in properties across the emerging markets. Yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. And I guess like in terms of like what was the learning curve with that? Because a lot of people have kind of been asking what is the training? How would you go about this? And I think it's really interesting to answer that question because again, like these are different varieties, right? So do you go through like comprehensive training for all these clients? How were you able to kind of like be up to speed with what the client is doing?
Yes. Aya, do you want to say?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. I think there's a mixture, right? Part of it will be covered within your training sessions. So when you start, you have quite a thorough training program that you go through in the first couple of weeks, just to get an overview of the sort of things you're going to be working on, and the sort of things that the clients may come to you with. But to complement this, you're on client calls very, very early on, and that sort of gets you thinking, and sort of prepares you as a training form, just in terms of what sort of questions they ask, what sort of information do we come prepared with, and so on and so forth. So more so for client-specific work, dealing with them on their calls, but we also have resources in our internal drive.
Nice. And obviously as
And
Rachel
I think, I mean, sorry, I was just going to say, Ayo, I remember that you did a training session for the whole of RegCom on financial promotions. I mean, it was a few months ago now, right? So you must have only been, what, 3 months in? But we threw you in the deep end there and you did that training session for all of us, which was fantastic. So I think, it's you can get up to speed relatively quickly.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think everything is contextual with regards to the work that you're working on. I think there is a massive push to make sure you do get the exposure both externally and internally. As we said, we work on a flat platform, so it is like very great. Like Rachel literally sits across from me, and having that opportunity to present literally had me in front of the whole department, and presenting just my knowledge, and the work that we do in advisory. And I think the following month consulting did one as well on the SFDR rules. So yeah, there's like loads of opportunities and scope to grow within training and outside.
Nice, nice, nice. And guys, honestly, I think the best way to learn is really being thrown in the deep end, honestly. Like, because I think that's where, like, the university education system fails in terms of everything being theoretical. But the best way to really understand this stuff is if you're doing it in practice, right? Pratip, is your mic working now? Can you please come back and ask your question if possible?
Hello, testing, testing. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes, all good, all good.
Yeah, apologies for that. I don't know what happened, but technical issues, as we all say all the time. But I do have two general questions, kind of directed towards all of you guys, if it's possible. So this is regarding like some of the recent news as well. So like as everyone's probably heard of it, the Consumer Duty Act. So how has the implementation of the Consumer Duty and other regulatory changes affected the way, IQEQ conducts business operations, especially since now, especially towards the end of Christmas, we've seen firms actually rushing towards this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a massive change in our sector. To be fair, on the hosting side, it's not so critical because all of our investors are institutional investors. We don't, as I said before, we don't deal with retail people. So the consumer duty, we have to be aware of it, we have to know about it, but it's not absolutely central to what we do. However, on the consulting side, we've got lots of clients that have got a retail element. So we've done a whole bunch of projects with those firms to help them understand what the consumer duty kind of changes mean, what new policies, procedures, systems, controls, all the rest of it they're going to have to implement so that they can demonstrate to the FCA that they're taking all of this really seriously. So, we're kind of excited because there's regulatory change all the time, and anytime there is a new piece of a new set of rules, it creates opportunity for us and we can go out there and sell it to our clients. So another example, just before Christmas, there was what's called a Dear CEO letter that was sent out to all corporate finance firms, which basically said, we, the FCA, are concerned that there are some issues in this sector. You've got to prove to us that kind of you're doing it correctly. So that was a brilliant opportunity for us to. So we wrote to every corporate finance firm we could kind of find and said, are you doing this, 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 and this? And if you're not, you need our help. So as a result of that, we've won a whole load of work with those corporate finance firms, and we're kind of helping them as we speak.
Nice, nice. That's a really proactive approach in terms of client acquisition as well. Conscious of time, guys, so I kind of want to move on to the last question. Andrew, you've had your hand up for a while now, so feel free to stand off your mic and ask your question.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, all good.
I think earlier I heard Rachel mention Web3, and I know that stuff like AI and decentralized finance is changing stuff in the industry. So I wanted to know how IQEQ is sort of leveraging AI and decentralized finance when it comes to getting new clients or just their general business operations.
Blimey. Okay, that's quite a big question. I don't know the answer to that. All I do know is we've got a department who are looking at it and investigating, what the opportunities are and how we might capitalize on them. But I don't know what the answers are. That's why we need people like you guys actually that understand all this sort of stuff. I'm far too much of a dinosaur to kind of understand what the opportunities might be, but I know we've got people on it.
Nice, no,
It's a big risk and a big opportunity for sure.
no, nice. And I think that's like, I guess speaks to the fact of why IQEQ is like, heavy on like acquiring a lot more like boutique firms as well to really kind of like get that expertise, right? So that's what it's all about. And I think it's a testament to the fact that you don't have all the answers, but that's why you leverage various different expertise to kind of get the answer. But honestly, guys, like I've been scratching my head with some of these questions that have been coming through. Intellectual curiosity on 100. So, well done to you guys, coming in at 6 p.m. in the evening to ask some of these questions. It's really great. Just wanted to kind of wrap up the session by just saying thank you to IQEQ and the team for coming. So if you guys can just drop all the thank yous in the chat, there's about 80 people. So I want to see 80 thank yous in the chat. And in terms of next steps now, guys, the applications are live on our platform and they're going to be up for 7 more days, right? So now you have all the insights and all the kind of like relevant information you need to apply. You just have to upload your CV. The opportunity is available for third year students or recent grads or working professionals that are readily available to start a potential full-time offer. And in terms of the application process, submit your CV, and then there's a couple of questions to answer that you'll see on the job description as well. And that's really important to kind of just really show your motivation for the role effectively. And, we hope to facilitate a very smooth and efficient process, as Rachel kind of mentioned. Even though we're trying to capitalize on AI, there's no AI in the process for the recruitment process in that respect.
There's not, no. I mean, I'm just sorry we haven't had a chance to answer all the really great questions that were in the chat, but I mean, as part of the process, you'll obviously be able to ask Stephen lots of questions, Sharp, myself, the guys, you can drop us a line on LinkedIn or something if there's something that we haven't had time to cover. But thank you very much for engaging with it, and wish you all the best success, whether it's this process or another process. I know it's really tough out there at the moment to get these internships, so I really wish you well with that.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, guys. And I'll leave you to it. I'm going to send a feedback form after, so look out for that, guys. And as I mentioned, for the first and second year students, there are about over 30 internships that are going live on our platform that will be applicable for you guys next week as well. So again, plenty of opportunities coming through at Beyond Education. I'm literally on the hunt. That's why I post on LinkedIn every day, guys, looking for those opportunities for you guys. But once again, I'll leave you guys to it. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye, guys.
All the best. Thank you.